Republican Lauren Boebert and Democrat Adam Frisch prepare for a recount. Coloradans should prepare themselves that a recount may not change much. More votes are likely in the balance as campaigns rush to cure ballots, fix signature issues. It involves trying to figure out which ballots will help them win. Spoiler alert, the reason a Republican lost a closely watched congressional race could be this guy, who only campaigned at his rock shows. Senator Michael Bennet tells us he was surprised by the size of his win. Did you expect that? No. And this Veterans Day, we remember a woman who made it her mission to honor Colorado's vets. All that is next. Get ready to wait on the final result of Colorado's most closely watched congressional race between Republican Representative Lauren Boebert and Democratic challenger Adam Frisch. Boebert's 1,122 vote lead over Frisch did not change today. She's 300 votes past an automatic recount. Both campaigns say they're preparing for such a recount. Boebert's asking for donations, warning of left-wing antics. A full recount is unlikely to drastically change the result. Remember, when Republican Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters lost her Secretary of State primary, she paid for a statewide recount. And out of 88,000 votes, 13 more went to her, 13 went to her opponent, so the recount did not change that final margin one bit. Frisch says he's waiting for all the military and overseas ballots to be counted, process that takes 8 days after Election Day. That's also the period to fix any voter signature discrepancies. You'll have people that forget to sign the ballot envelope. There are first-time mail ballot voters who sometimes forget you got to include a copy of ID your first time. So what happens is those ballots are set aside. They're not counted right away. Politics guy Marshall Zellinger explains the process to cure those ballots.
The race for Congressional District 3 is separated by 1,122 votes. The two largest counties in that district, Mesa and Pueblo, have a combined 1,166 ballots that have yet to be counted because of a mistake made by the voter, a mistake they can still fix or cure by the end of Wednesday.
Cure just means that an eligible voter has cast a ballot. They've submitted that, and there is some sort of technical deficiency with that.
Amber McReynolds is a national elections expert who used to run the elections division in Denver. Technical deficiency could be a ballot envelope with a missing signature, a signature that doesn't match, or a lack of ID for a first-time voter. Those ballots are set aside. Those voters are contacted by mail, and these days it can also be by text, to let them know how to fix their mistake so their ballot can still count. In Mesa County, there are 797 voters who can still cure their ballot by Wednesday. 430 are unaffiliated, 251 are Republican, and 88 are Democrats. Pueblo County has 369 voters who can still cure their uncounted ballots. Pueblo's database, though, did not reveal the party affiliation breakdown. For military members and overseas voters still registered in Colorado, they are allowed to have their ballots counted if they're received up to 8 days after Election Day. Curing ballots, along with military and overseas ballots, are why vote totals change 1 week later.
Normal process happens every election. In fact, it's happening in every single state in the country right now.
There's another stat I want to tell you about. I've gone through the election results data for all 27 counties in Congressional District 3, and I have counted more than 6,000 undervotes, meaning a voter who did not choose either candidate. But it turns out an undervote does not necessarily mean the bubble was left blank.
A voter may have marked outside of that oval, so they might have circled the name or underlined the name.
McReynolds told me that if a recount happens, those undervotes should be scrutinized to see if those voters really left that race blank or if they made some mark that wasn't counted that indicates voter intent. Voter intent should be considered when the machine kicks the ballot out to say, we have an undervote here, there's nothing in the bubble. So it's a fair chance that of those 6,200 undervotes, they've been looked at once before, but if they weren't, those are votes that could be changed in a recount, whether it's automatic or whether it's paid for. Those undervotes should be scrutinized by the teams of both candidates to be like, look, there's 50% of a dot there, and you didn't count that one, or that's underlined. Come on, they meant to vote for that person.
When it comes to fixing the signatures, right, each campaign's out trying to get signatures fixed for the people they think are their people, but not necessarily the other candidate's people.
Sure, if you go to someone's door and say, hi, your vote hasn't counted yet, we need you to fix a signature, you don't know who they voted for at that point, and if they're like, I didn't vote for your person, but thanks, I'll get it taken care of. We had a Ring doorbell camera of that happening in the Aurora mayor's race a couple years ago, where they went to the wrong door, and they never finished their sentence.
They just walked away.
They walked away.
They walked away because it's a vote for the opposition. That's what's going to be going on all over the 3rd Congressional District right now. Marshall, thank you. Republicans trying to flip the U.S. House. were really counting on Colorado's 8th congressional district, Weld and Adams counties. It was thought to be a race that was tight but leaning their way. Then the Republican lost it narrowly. Now it appears a third-party candidate in that race played a far larger role than anyone expected, including him. Going into election night, no House race in Colorado got more attention than Republican Barb Kirkmeyer versus Democrat Yadira Caraveo. Republicans thought they had the edge, but Caraveo won by less than a point. Nowhere in the picture was a third-party candidate who didn't appear to campaign but got nearly 4% of the vote. Conservative talk radio smelled a conspiracy to defeat the Republican.
The Libertarian candidate in the 8th congressional district has no campaign website. He has no social media. He has no phone number. He has no email address. He has no picture on any website. It's a protest vote, but you're not even going to see who you're voting for. It could have been Satan.
His name is Dan. He's with the band.
My campaign really was just to meet the disenfranchised people.
Libertarian Dan Ward, sound guy for the metal band Driven by Turmoil. He gave the finger to the establishment by pulling 3.9% of the vote, easily enough to swing the race and about double the 1.9% average of the other Colorado Libertarians running for Congress. Dan can't explain his success. His volunteer campaign manager, Patty McMahon, can't explain it either.
We took zero funds from anybody. I mean, we were very clear. We didn't even take it from our own party.
The Colorado Libertarian Party told us they have no idea how a guy who campaigned only through concerts did so well. Two pollsters looked at the race for us and also weren't sure. Liberal and conservative operatives from groups that don't like Republican Barb Kirkmeyer all denied that they somehow secretly boosted up the sound guy from Driven by Turmoil. Frontman Rodney Rivera says, you know what? They just kept playing Dan's unofficial campaign anthem at shows and asking people to vote for him.
And I think that's what really helped him, push over the top like he did,
Did the metal guy really swing a closely watched congressional race? Probably. And until we know what really happened, maybe we should just take a cue from his theme song. Seriously, though, I mean, from pollsters to pundits to campaign insiders, could not find anyone today who could explain why that one Libertarian candidate doubled the vote percentage of every other Libertarian candidate running for Congress. Some suggested maybe part of it was sexism against two female candidates. Maybe it was a slightly larger unaffiliated population in that district. Low turnout could have helped if the metal crowd came out to vote. Perhaps it was simply the power of rock, or something we don't know about yet. Almost half the students in Adams County rely on the food that they get at school. And now their families are able to rely on the food that they can pick up at school. And it's because of the food pantries placed inside school buildings in Adams County by the nonprofit Food for Hope. Your Word of Thanks microgiving campaign is partnering with 9 Cares Colorado Shares all this month as we fight hunger across our state. Since Wednesday, you've raised more than $18,000 for Food for Hope as it feeds entire families in Adams County by sending food home with kids from school. Scan that QR code on your screen to get the link to join me in donating, or you can find the donation link on the next section of 9news.com. You can also find it on any of our social media pages. Your generosity continues to be legendary. You have raised $9.7 million for Colorado's nonprofits through Word of Thanks. And this week, we're in a position that together we can make sure that kids and their families have enough to eat. Chance to come away feeling positive at the end of a long week. Senator Michael Bennet, fresh off the biggest win of his career, sits down with Next to talk about the future, his own and the Democrats' hopes for holding the White House. And we've lost a Coloradan who is not a veteran, but did everything she could to honor their service on every day, not just Veterans Day. Next. Perhaps you were surprised Democratic Senator Michael Bennet won re-election by 12 points. So was he. We talked today.
I thought it would be somewhere around 8. And I think what I'm so gratified by is in order to get that margin, it's amazing the difference between counties like El Paso County and Douglas County. I mean, I came much closer. I didn't win those counties, but I lost them by 7 or 8 points, not by 20 points. And I find that really gratifying.
There's something that both Democrats and Republicans are asking right now, which is what is happening in Colorado right now politically? What do you think?
I think it's still a purple state. I think that, we still have the biggest block of voters in this state are unaffiliated, and they're the key to an election, to a general election. So I think we're still purple. But I do think this state is rejecting the chaos that Donald Trump represented, and that's why those margins were one of the reasons why those margins were so big.
If you serve out the rest of the term you were just elected to, you become Colorado's longest serving senator since people rode horses to work. Have you given thought to what the tail end of a Senate career looks like? Certainly you've watched some of your colleagues grow quite old and honestly infirm in the job.
Yeah. I do not want to find myself in that position, but I'm lucky. I'm 57 years old. When I went to this job, I was 44 years old. I was the youngest senator in the place. I'm obviously not that anymore, but I do think, Kyle, this is a moment when our system is being tested in very fundamental ways. And I feel very lucky to have spent a life outside of politics before I was in politics, to bring that perspective to the work. And now I have, the experience of working in this broken institution. I think that's going to be useful to figuring out how we can fix it and move the country forward.
You've said that if President Joe Biden wants to run for another term, that's his choice, and you would support him if he does. If he decides that that is not what he wants and he's not going to run again, do you want to be in the presidential conversation again? And do you think that Governor Jared Polis should be in the conversation?
I would say that both of us could be in that conversation again, because I think Colorado is such an interesting state politically for the country. And Jared Polis, in my view, has done an incredible job as governor, and he ran a great race for re-election. I feel like I've done a good job, and I feel like we ran a really good race. So it'll be interesting to see what that discussion looks like.
Senator Bennet, thanks for your time. Congratulations.
Thank you, Kyle.
You can see my full conversation with Senator Bennet on the next YouTube page. We talk about whether surprising wins for Democrats will actually break through the dysfunction in Washington, and Bennett's explanation on whether he's shifted to the left while he's been in the Senate. Colorado's House Democrats at the State House have chosen a new House Speaker to lead their largest majority in history. 45 of the 65 reps in the House are Democrats, and that raucous caucus picked Julie McCluskey Dillon to be in charge today. She bested Representative Adrian Benavidez of Adams County in a runoff.
All right, time to take a look at your forecast on this Friday evening. Certainly chilly out there as those clouds continue to dissipate. Overnight low temperatures are set to drop back down into the teens. Jackets on this evening if you're set to go outside. Upper 20s and lower 30s in the metro region. Lyman, good evening to you. We're sitting at 25 degrees. As you're getting into the high country, even colder. Upper teens and lower 20s in both Leadville and for Kremling. Eagle, not too bad at 31. As I said, though, it is going to be a chilly evening. We're doing 17 degrees tonight. This is all under partly cloudy to mostly clear skies. And as I said, the clouds are going to continue to clear by the early hours of tomorrow morning. And that's all thanks in part to a high pressure system that's going to be sitting right over the state of Colorado. In turn, we're going to be fed some warmer temperatures than what we were working with today. Tomorrow will be in the upper 40s and lower 50s. But don't get too used to it. I mean, my goodness, we are in for a very chilly start to the week next week. And that even bleeds through the middle of next week. And so 51 degrees, that's our high temperature for tomorrow. We'll do 50 in Greeley, Winter Park 37 degrees, Leadville, upper 30s and lower 40s. Sunday, a very similar situation, maybe a few clouds down near Colorado Springs and Pueblo through the evening hours. Otherwise, we're looking forward towards a really nice day. There it is, 37 degrees on Monday, 36 on Tuesday with an isolated spotty snow shower at best. And then we warm up just a little bit by the middle and end of next week.
We mark Veterans Day with a salute to a civilian who gave years of her life serving Colorado's veterans. Next. This Veterans Day, we pause to honor someone in our state who dedicated years of her life to those who served. Mary Haddon ran the Rocky Mountain Honor Flight for more than 14 years. She passed away this week after a brief battle with an aggressive cancer. Mary organized 41 of those trips, flying Colorado's World War II, Korean War, and Vietnam veterans to Washington, D.C., the opportunity of a lifetime to see the memorials built in their honor. And we witnessed Mary. She was a force on those trips, managing those huge groups of heroes in the busyness of Washington, D.C., making sure that they were able to see all of the sites dedicated to their service. On a trip in 2015, Mary told us why she did it.
These men and women are very humble. They don't ask for anything. They never did ask for anything. They don't expect anything. And they deserve everything.
Mary Haddon served more than 1,200 veterans in her time with Rocky Mountain Honor Flight. She was a proud mom, mother, and grandmother. Mary Haddon was 74 years old. Election night, and the next day, and the next day, wore us down this week, but we will leave here with your words about what's good in your world next. Election day turned election week is not going to bump your good news off our air, not after 324 weeks running. A viewer named Kim sent me a note today saying that she is a year removed from her stem cell transplant for leukemia, and she is filled with gratitude. Another next viewer made it out to the Elton John show in Denver, said he's actually pretty good on the piano. Ashley's world is a brighter place because after 3 years of pandemic delays, her theater company in Fort Collins finally gets to put on their production of Elf the Musical. And Sandy got in touch with me on Twitter this afternoon to tell me that the good news in her life is her love and her pride for her dad, Chuck. Chuck is 93 years old. Man is still doing well. We thank him and all of the other veterans out there for their service today. A lot of feedback about why 8th District Libertarian Dan Ward may have done twice as well as any other Libertarian and perhaps thrown that race. Darlene says the campaign ads were so nasty on both sides. I know people who voted against the Libertarian as a protest against both candidates. We're sick of the negativity. It's interesting, Darlene. That was my wife's exact take on why the Libertarian might have done so well in that race. Tom says, we shouldn't assume that a Libertarian vote would otherwise go to a Republican. I think Dan's votes would have been split 50-50 between the Dems and the GOP. That's always the debate, Tom, about how Libertarians' votes would flush out in these situations. Want to know a secret? Dan, the rocker man, not a conservative Libertarian. He says he's a Libertarian socialist. And then Rory says, as one of the unaffiliated voters who voted for Dan Ward, I did so only after watching the 9 News debate and realizing that I did not want either of the major party candidates. Thanks for watching that debate. See you next time.